Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our podcast series today, where we'll be featuring some of our Empowerment Grant recipients to learn more about their projects. If you're new here, I'm Eddie Davis II. I'm the Midwest BDC's Director of Grants and Development. Our mission here at Midwest BDC is to decarbonize the Midwestern building sector by 2050. Our focus states are Indiana, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and Ohio. Let me tell you a little bit about our granting program. To align the coalition's work with Justice 40 and the Climate Funder Justice Pledge, Midwest BDC has committed 40% of its annual budget to regranting work, either through participation stipends for our coalition members or through our empowerment grants. We know that environmental injustices have impacted all communities the same: Black, Brown, Indigenous, and people of color, members of the frontline communities, historically marginalized groups, and environmental justice communities are strongly encouraged to apply to these for these funds. Currently, the applications are actually open and are going now through August 30th. So check out the funding program tab on our page on our website to learn more about the regranting program. Joining me today is Serena Amdur.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. We just went over this. Um, from Michigan Climate Action Network's digital community man. She's the Michigan Climate Action Network's community digital community manager. I'm sorry. MiCAN received an empowerment grant last year to fund their climate influencers program, which Serena will be telling us more about today. Serena's mission is to encourage a more engaged and supported climate movement through MiCAN's digital platforms. Her natural interest in community resiliency and local climate solutions led her to earn a bachelor's degree in environmental studies from McAllister College with an emphasis on cultural sustainability and a minor in food, agriculture, and society. Welcome, Serena, and have at it. Tell us a little bit more about this. I gave a little blur, but if you want to elaborate, we have more than enough time to do that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, hello. It's great to be here. So thank you for having me on today. So my name is Serena Amdur. I'm the digital community manager at MiCAN. And I guess I'll just add that, in general, a little bit more about MiCAN, which we always, to make it a little shorter, say MiCAN instead of Michigan Climate Action Network, the full name. And our mission is to amplify, connect, and support the people, organizations, and communities that are demanding urgent, bold, and equitable solutions for a just transition to a resilient future. We are based in Michigan, so we have a statewide focus and collaborate with a bunch of local grassroots orgs across the state. And so a lot of my work at MiCAN tends to fall a little bit more into that amplifying, connecting, and supporting of the individuals, the people that are a part of our work. And so climate influencers was kind of a piece of that too, of kind of providing some mentorship and training in those areas. But yeah, that's all I'll add for now for some
Okay.
introduction.
So let's kick it right off. So you were one of our empowerment grant recipients in our 2023 and 24 class. Talk a little bit about the Climate Influencers Project. What was it a new project that you guys were looking to kick off and looking to get some funding to get started with, or was it something you guys had already been doing but wanted to enhance and scale a little bit? Give us a little bit of a background on it.
Yeah, for sure. So the Climate Influencer Project was set up as a program to try to, give some youth in Michigan the training, empowerment, and confidence to be able to more confidently talk about climate change and those issues at large, but specifically on social media, knowing that that is a platform that young people tend to get a lot of their news from, get a lot of their info from. So we're wanting to make sure that we have more of those strong voices in that mix. And the other side of it as well was for MiCAN, knowing on our end, when we're talking about these issues, that we for sure want to include more diverse voices delivering those messages. And we found that it was so key to try to include the youth voice because um, young Michiganders and especially BIPAC Michiganders are the ones that are going to be and are currently most impacted by climate change. So
Mhm.
that they are a part of those conversations, a part of those solutions, all those good things. Um, the idea for the Climate Influencers Project came from a previous project that MiCAN had done. I believe it was back in 2021, which was a time when um, none of our current staff was a part of MiCAN at that time.
Mm.
I just have
Geez, that's a lot of turnover, huh?
Yeah, I technically am the most senior employee at
Wow.
MiCAN, and I started in May of 2022. Denise, our
Wow.
executive director, started, I think, 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah, so we kind of just have some old Google Docs that we could find of what they even did.
Mhm.
Um, but they ran kind of a semi-similar digital cohort trying to get uh, people to help create more climate content for socials and that kind of thing. But it was a fully volunteer program. And so we had seen that, knew that we wanted to bring something like that back, but also knew that we really didn't want to run a program like this unless we could pay our influencers to be a part of it, right? Make it a paid internship. So that was where the empowerment grant from Midwest Building Decarb really was imperative for the program and what allowed us to start it off at this time. Was that the vast majority of those funds that we received went towards a $1,500 stipend for each of these 6 influencers, and they worked with us roughly 5 to 10 hours a week. So that was we calculated to be equivalent to about a $15 an hour stipend for their work with us. So that was really imperative. Like we knew like we're not going to do this again as a volunteer thing. We want it to be a two-way street of
Yeah.
they're making so much work for us that we're going to be
Yeah.
posting. Yes, we're training them, but we want it to be a paid opportunity.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, we had 2 cohorts, each with 3 influencers in it, and we ran the program for 12 weeks. So we would meet once a week with a different educational topic that we would focus on, and over the following week they would then create a piece of content or two based on the things that they had learned in that meeting. And we tried to mix it up a bit between, some weeks it was just backgrounds on campaigns. So we would have, a week on building decarbonization, a week on Line 5, a week on what the current climate legislature looks like in Michigan. But we'd also would have weeks where that were a little bit more general overviews, like here's just like an intro level climate justice week, just to make sure all of us are on the same page on some of
Mhm.
those principles. We had a week with a guest speaker, Laura Schmidt from the Good Grief Network, which was, I think, one of the favorite weeks for all of our influencers, which was really focused on resilience and empowerment when you're living in a chaotic climate,
Mhm.
and a lot about, that we live in really difficult times and trying to touch in on those emotions and those experiences of being a young person in these times, in these unstable and unpredictable times. Um, yeah, and just trying to have a couple of weeks too that checked in on us as people and those emotions as a part of this process too, and being a part of this work, knowing that you know being in the field of climate change stuff and the climate movement can easily lead to burnout if you're not careful, not mindful of
Yeah.
how you're participating and how you're giving, hopefully not your all, so that you don't burn out.
Correct, correct. And sometimes, it's that work-life balance, as they say, and overcommitting yourself and that sort of thing. I think that um, one of the things what that I like the fact that you guys you knew what you didn't you knew what you guys were capable of as doing your job, but you knew that there was a market here to bring in intern or influencers and pay them to do this other work that you still needed to have done for your organization. But why not let folks who were more apt and be more creative with whatever means to put together the information Did you have them doing like where they were doing like posts or anything like on social media, or what were, typical influencers are looking at products or programs or something and talking about, hey, I did this, or somebody sends them a product to review and they talk about it.
Mhm.
Not all the time that they're actually using the product, but how did you guys um, kind of manage them in a sense where you knew you were getting the kind of content you needed to make sure you're driving the point home about MiCAN's work and keeping it close to the mission as possible?
Yeah, for sure. So many of the prompts or kind of the assignments that we would give our influencers were pretty directly related to whatever that week's topic was. So especially for the weeks where it was something more specific, a specific campaign like Line 5 or building decarb, um, we often would have a guest speaker who is an expert in kind of that area to be able to really give the lowdown, give them the facts that they can then use that information to create a post or a video for social media. Um, and then we would, you know, I was a little bit of a filter, of a little bit of a copy editor. They
Hmm.
would send that content to me, and I would provide feedback, adjust a couple of things. And I would say I was just pulling a lot of the metrics the other day. It's going to test my memory for the numbers. But roughly, I would say it was like roughly 60% so far of the well, I'll say it this way so I don't need to do that quick math in my head. Overall in the program, I think they created somewhere in the ballpark, it was like 75 to 80 pieces of content, which a lot of it we still have in a backlog and we'll post over time. But
Okay.
so far has resulted in, I believe it was 47 posts
Hmm.
across a couple of different social media platforms. So obviously, not all of it is they create it and it's instantly ready to go.
Hmm.
There is a
Hmm.
little bit of a learning curve. There's a little
Okay.
bit of, MiCAN has kind of specific brand elements, specific voice that, of course, I'm going to kind of touch on. And there's little aspects too of, if I have three people all creating a post about climate justice, I'm probably not going to post it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday the same week,
Yeah. Yeah.
but space it out a bit. So,
How did you guys when in my experience of um I wasn't an influencer at all, but I just know a few, and sometimes the folks that are looking to get products or a message across are hitting people up in their DMs or what have you. Like, how did you get those influencers? How did you guys go and find them? Were they referred to you, like, or did they come find you? How was did you put out a open casting call or what?
yeah, so we put out an open call both times for both cohorts that we did it for, and we tried our best. My goal with that was I didn't want it to feel like a job interview because that
Yeah.
wasn't really quite the right vibe
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
this program. But we set some baseline requirements. So we wanted um, people between the ages of 18 to 25 because we wanted that youth voice. I will say originally we were hoping to do a little bit younger as well, but um, for legal reasons, it's a lot easier
Yeah.
to not pay
Yeah.
minors.
Yeah. 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 That's
So 18 became the minimum. We set 25 as the maximum, mostly because I am 26 and I kind of wanted to be older than all of them. But that was our age range, and we asked them to tell us, you know, how they're already involved in the climate movement and kind of where they are in that journey for themselves, what their own use of social media looks like, and how they might be using that already to be talking about climate change issues. And then we also asked them to either, create a draft or send us some examples of like the type of content that they would be interested in making.
Mhm.
Everyone's going to have their own styles of how they like to do things.
Mhm.
And then, of course, we also asked some basic demographic questions because we wanted to try to ensure that we had a diverse cohort, in all aspects of diversity. If it's geographic diversity across Michigan, making sure we had different zip codes represented. To we kind of just put it open of like you tell us what are the important demographic or the identities that you hold that you feel are important for
Yeah.
this, to try to do it that way. And yeah, it's kind of just me sorting through and find the people that seemed the most enthusiastic and
Mhm.
would fit the best for the program.
Got you. Okay. Okay. Well, what about also too? Um, what did you learn? What did you learn for some of the young influencers about how they're telling the stories of climate change and that sort of thing? Like and also too, I know that you said that some of the content isn't it's still ongoing, so it's not all posted out already. And is some so a two-part question: what did you learn? But also too, is some of the content um time sensitive, so you had to get it posted, or can it carry forward with your how you guys are slowly releasing and that sort of thing?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I would definitely say in terms of insights or what we learned, it was very much a two-way street, which was our hope, right, of that
Mhm.
I could help mentor some of these influencers, and I would learn a lot through the process too. So I would say the biggest thing that I learned, especially from our second cohort, is trying to balance when you're approaching climate communications, especially in social media, trying to balance silliness
Mhm.
is the word that we use the most, right?
Mhm.
A lot of times for social media, it's finding that balance of like it's not always going to be fun topics that we're discussing, but there's a ways to infuse some silliness to make it
Yeah.
more relatable, and that type of thing. Which I think our influencers as individuals, a lot of times, the type of content that they might create and then post to their individual platforms might be slightly different than what we would post on an organizational platform. So a lot of that was sorting through, they might create something and figuring out like, okay, can that go on MiCAN's page? Can we step
Mhm.
into being that level of silliness?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, or is that
Yeah.
something that like you post in your personal, you just tag us?
Mhm. 'Cause
Um,
I never and I'm still kind of new to this area of climate change. Like, I never hear anybody like cracking jokes or like having fun with it. I mean, amongst us when we're at conferences and things like that, or like these video podcasts or anything like that, we're cracking jokes or having fun, but everybody's so serious. I mean, it is a serious topic. I'm
mhm,
not trying to say that the environment is not a serious topic, trust me, but I'm just saying, you know, they're like my mom used to always say, there is a time and place for everything.
for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that we need some more of the lightness and the
Yeah,
jokes and the silliness when we're talking about climate change as well, because it's so easy to just get in the mode of despair and doom scrolling about it and
mhm,
those types of things.
mhm,
So I think that was one thing that I learned too of like we try to break it up a bit, make sure we can keep it light when we can, and knowing the importance of showing hope and displaying joy even in times
yeah,
you know of crisis and of really
mhm,
hard times. It doesn't, even if you're in really hard times, it does not mean that all
yeah,
joy is gone, right?
yeah,
Whatever there is, it's so important
yeah.
to experience it and to highlight it too.
So what types of ways did they communicate decarbonization? Were there mostly posts they submitted, were there reels, or there live streams that you guys recorded and will later use, or like what were the mediums they used to kind of talk about decarbonization from your perspective?
Yeah, for decarb in particular, I think most of them ended up making videos for that one. Of course, when it comes to building decarb, and when you're kind of having that youth audience, there are some of that messaging gets changed a little bit, right? Because the vast majority of them are not going to be owning their homes; they're going to be
Correct.
renters, and kind of leading into that type of content as well. Of
Mhm.
I think a lot of them were creating videos of the little things that you can do maybe on the energy efficiency side of
Mhm.
I set my thermostat a couple of degrees cooler in the winter and a couple of degrees higher in the summer so
Yeah.
I don't use as much energy in the first place, um and that type of content. And I think we had one influencer who was moving at the time, so she made a video about looking at new apartment buildings and trying to see what what building decarb aspects are already apparent in these buildings, and helping to make the decision for where she's going to end up living. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of them were focusing a little bit on those tips and tricks, especially
Yeah.
for young people and for renters.
What would you guys say that looking at the fact that you guys did the empowerment grant this past year? First off, are you looking to apply again for this year?
I think we haven't. I'm actually in the middle of writing up a little grant report for you all right now.
Okay, okay, good.
So I think we
Yeah.
have to finish that, and then as a team, we'll assess if we're going to do it again, because
Okay.
it. I would love to do it at some point in the future. I think right now we're trying to decide, what our team capacity looks like if we can
Okay.
run this program again. In
Hmm.
general, I think if we, had endless capacity, we would definitely be doing this.
Good. Well,
Um,
we appreciate that.
yeah, we just got to figure out what are our upcoming campaigns, and if we can, do it in a way where we can truly devote the time that it needs to do it right.
Good.
And we also had, when we were putting out those calls for this program, we had quite a few people reach out who were not between the ages of 18 and
Hmm.
25 who expressed interest um, in learning more about how to effectively communicate about climate change on social media.
Hmm.
So we've also tossed around the idea of, do we set up a program that's not specifically youth based? Do
Hmm.
we set up a program that is maybe specifically geared towards a different generation of, like, for Gen X or even boomers of, that might be a little bit of a different format of
Yeah.
how we're teaching social media
Correct.
or for
Correct.
those age groups, but
Yeah.
also important of, if they're the ones that can then reach out and talk to their peers,
Hmm.
that's important too.
Correct.
So I think there's a lot of different ways that we might do this in the future, but I can't say for sure right now that, like, we have a third cohort coming up.
Well, that's all right. I mean, it's good. What I tell folks who I've been consulting, so part of my role with this, and this is my first year experiencing the empowerment grants and the participation stipends, because I came on staff in February of this year, is being realistic. When people talk to me about, hey, I'm looking to apply, this is what our org does, or this is what I'm doing personally, and then what do you think? And I'll say, well, do you have a program or something that you want to put together? And I told him, I said, in order for you to apply for either for the empowerment grant, you need to have some sort of program in mind that you want to do, but you just need some funds to help get it off the ground and do a pilot for a year and that sort of thing. And so those are kind of things I kind of talk to people about and say, look, maybe if you feel like you need to make some adjustments or what have you, it's fine to sit out this year, and definitely come back when you're ready to go the following year. There's no issue with that. We're not going to you know coerce you to fill out the application. We would love to have you again, but you got to make sure you do what you can do to and what you can handle as far as capacity goes. So um I guess, since you guys aren't, what kind of advice would you give people who are interested in applying based off of your experience?
Yeah, so I will say, one, that it was my executive director, Denise, who did the application
Mhm.
process. So for that in particular, I did ask her in advance, and her thoughts on that were that, I'm not sure, Eddie, if you're kind of taking those meetings now, but she said, like, take the meeting with Marnice or whoever it is who is
Yeah,
helping
that's
to
me. Yeah.
facilitate these grants. Yeah, that,
Mhm.
you know, it's not that scary. You're not gonna
Yeah.
bite.
Hmm. Hmm.
That come and talk about those ideas and get a better idea of what they might be able to accomplish with
Correct.
these grants with you. Um, is definitely helpful and definitely important
Yeah.
to kind of be able to check base before you even really start the process.
Yeah.
I think is very helpful.
Good. Good. Okay. Well, we thank you so much, Serena, for sharing your insight on what MiCAN currently is doing, what you did with the granting funds. I think that in the age of everybody wants to be appreciate it. And I think the fact that you guys right off the bat decided, hey, we're going to pay you guys for what you do because you have the time to do it. You can be creative with it. And then we just kind of work with you to pare it down so it makes sense. So we're both talking the same language. I think that was good. It was a good use of the funds. So I really appreciate you guys taking advantage of that, those cohorts. Hopefully down the line, when you guys have capacity, we can have you guys back again. We are starting. I just want to mention this year we started something, a cohort of our own, and taking some of the comments, like you just said, about the meetings that our recipients were having with them about their projects and how to map out a strategy for success. This year, we're starting a cohort of our own at Midwest BDC, and everybody who receives a empowerment grant are going to be the inaugural class of our cohort. So it's going to be a 12-month program, 6 month more hands-on. We're meeting once a month to talk about their projects, their progress, share some insights, and share some tips and tricks and resources with them and one another, and really kind of help each other get to a level of success so that when they report back, everybody is pretty much proud to not only be in the program but proud that they have support to kind of get them to their whatever their goals are for their organization. So the latter 6 months is going to be more of a hands off, but more of a technical assistance. If they need a resource or they need somebody to read over a project or something like that, or a proposal document, or they're looking to help with grant funding from somebody else, we are going to be here to help them out. So each one of the staff members whose level of expertise is going to be displayed, one of the members from the empowerment grants is going to be able to match with them, and then we'll be able to work with them on that thing. So we're looking forward to our cohort model, and I may at some point, even though you did more influencing and media, I may tap into you just on managing a cohort because although we're not managing youth, we still are managing people outside of our organization. So you have to deal with those personalities, you have to deal with those
Mhm.
time constraints and those things like that. So it's always good to get feedback and talk to someone else who's done it before. So I appreciate that and be on the lookout for that as well. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off here?
Well, I'll just say that, as MiCAN's digital community manager, I do a lot of the, supporting of trying to facilitate bringing people together
Mhm.
virtually across time and space. So I'm very happy to share any tips and tricks I might have
Great.
when we get into that cohort program.
Great.
But no, that sounds like to me, it sounds like a great addition to the empowerment grants. And I'm hopeful that will turn out well for you all. But other than that, just a big thank you to Midwest Building Decarb for providing us the opportunity to put on this program and pay our influencers. Um, yeah, I think Midwest Building Decarb has been such a great resource and partner in so many things for MiCAN. So I'm looking forward to more collaborations and opportunities to work together in the future too.
Well, thank you so much, Serena. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. As a reminder, you can learn more about our regranting program, our past recipients like Serena and MiCAN, and apply for this year on our website at www.midwestdecarb.org. Applications are due by August 30th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us today, and everyone have a good day.